Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Amy Lou Jenkins, author, educator, and we explore with her how inherited lies and cultural noise manufacture our identities and how to use nature, memoir, and peer storytelling to dismantle that silencing. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, and these are topics that I think everyone should be interested in because they have to do with us bringing our best selves to the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Welcome to the show once again. Amy, welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe, a lot of women across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about how one can reclaim their authentic voice and much more. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I grew up in a lower middle class lifestyle in the States. My father's a postman. My mother worked various different jobs, and they drank a lot. I'm going to be honest with you, and so I lived a life where the house was volatile. And if you said the wrong thing, you might flip a switch that you didn't want to flip, and things would go bad. So, in addition to the female cultural expectation that you should be, somewhat quiet and pretty and find a man to and build him up, I had this adjacent fear of making people angry. And I was always interested in writing, and I was always interested in nature. I was interested in nature because I wanted to get out of the house. So I would, leave the house and find a stream, find a tree, find whatever I could. I didn't live in a beautiful area, but I would find something natural. And eventually, my writing, my third grade teacher said, "You're going to be a writer, Amy." And I won a pretty important writing contest when I was in high school. But I went into nursing because I liked nature. And then I left nursing. I left nursing because I had created a program that helped keep disabled young people home so that they didn't have to live in a nursing home. And I found out they were going to close the program. And I came home crying to my husband, just sobbing all the way home. And he said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "My heart is broken. I think I have to leave nursing." And he said, "What are you going to do?" And just from the depth of my being, without thinking about it, I said, "I'm going to go back to school and study literature and writing." And I applied for an MFA program in Bennington. It's in the East Coast of the States. And probably too silly to know that I applied to a really program that's very hard to get into. And somehow I got into it. I think there were 2 spots that year, only 2 in my narrative nonfiction, but I got in. I think I was number 5, but a few people couldn't join then. So I got in, and ever since then, my life has been devoted to writing. I write a lot about the natural world, and my jam is narrative nonfiction. I like to experience a mind in motion, and I like to write about things that are not that are complex, we have mixed feelings about, where we change our mind on the page.
Absolutely, absolutely, Amy. And you are a long-time writing mentor, creator of the Lit Friends community. And we'll also talk about the alchemy of SAS, your forthcoming memoir. We'll come to that. But before that, let's understand from the audience point of what is it that they should understand. What is Amy doing? What is she trying to do? With what she is doing? Are you trying to change the world, or are you trying to be much more focused?
Well, I think that a writer is always trying to nudge the world. I think we are, because we bring our best selves. I find two of my important paths that I teach and that I live by are, one, to turn down the noise of salesmanship. And in many parts of the world, we are all told that we need to buy something to fix ourselves. So we have all the time, we're being told, as a woman, from the top of my head to my toe, there's 5 different products I need. And the reason I need these products is because something is wrong with me. So first, I think if we spend time in nature, we can tone down those voices and look at our original relationship to the universe, where there is no one telling us that there's a problem, or telling us to do something like stay forever young. How stupid is that? And that's not possible. We're going to get older, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is natural. I remember being with my son, and I wrote my first memoir, Every Natural Fact. It was walking essays, nature essays, and we came upon a dying fox. Actually, he wasn't dying; he was dead, and there was so much life in him, and it was bacteria, worms. I mean, there was a buzzing force of flies around him. And at first I was grossed out. Of course, my son looked at it and he thought, oh, cool, look at this fox. And what happened is we were watching it. And then as we left, when you're on a walk, you have a long time to think without distractions. We didn't have phones with us. We were just out on a walk. And so then my son asked me, so Mom, what was so gross about the fox? And we realized that we couldn't tell if it was the life or the death, that the two were so intertwined. And when you see that in motion, you can see that in many aspects in nature. The big questions, how we distribute resources, our spirituality, our death, where we find joy, all those types of things, you can have a very original relationship in nature. So I think that that's an important part of our authentic voices and our authentic thoughts being silenced by civilization, and that we can, maybe we never had it. Maybe we're claiming them for the first time. So nature is one way to do that. And the other is journaling, because in journaling, then we can go back into our past, into what we've been taught, and identify what values are we living by? Did we choose them? Are we really living by our values? And I'm in the States, and right now I see a lot of people working just to get approval, even for ideas that are ugly, because we are not focused on what our real chosen values are, or even the values of our faith. I think most of our faiths say we should, right, be kind to each other and love each other. And that's not a complicated thing, but somehow we've made it complicated with all this noise. And we have a lot of people here who lost sight of our call to love each other. And we need to look at our past and then decide which values we are going to select and which one it's time to put aside. I love the personal essay. So I think journaling can move into writing that is publishable. I love the personal essay and memoir and narrative nonfiction, telling a story about change. But what a beautiful thing that is not celebrated, to change our mind. We have these terrible phrases here. We say, oh, you're a flip-flopper, you changed your mind. Well, I would say if you haven't changed your mind about something or adjusted an opinion about something in a long time, then you haven't been learning and growing. So I like to celebrate nature, and I like to celebrate thoughtful journaling and writing.
Absolutely. I mean, very well put. And this is such a refreshing set of thoughts that you bring in. A lot of people, when they talk about, about bringing in the change, they talk about, because you talk about nature, you talk about journaling, and you talk about looking at things from a press perspective, the right perspective. But when you talk of, core values, you also talk about, inherited lies and assumptions passed down through generations. How do you suggest people, or especially women, look at those things and understand? How should they know this is ancient wisdom, the right kind of wisdom, the natural wisdom? And then the rest is the market that you talk about, that people are pushing market for them. A lot of the people who are in difficult situations, can tell them to fix themselves with their products. That is also a big market. Help us understand from how do we, even the old, some of the things are not good, and the market today, which is helping, trying to fix you with all the different type of products, that is also not the way to accept it. How do you tell women to calibrate both these things?
Well, I find that women have a great capacity to love. And also, with my nursing background, I understand that our instincts and hormonal estrogen and oxytocin, which we have, really biologically helps us generally to be good mothers and to be sacrificing, because biologically, right, it takes a lot to raise a child, and women have traditionally been the primary caregiver. And that somehow in civilization has been mixed up with that we should be second class. And when women, and I understand this because I struggled with this for a long time, I thought, of course I should be self-sacrificing. Of course I should be kind. Of course I should put other people first. And that really sounds beautiful when it is not gender-based. Shouldn't men also be self-sacrificing and be kind and share power? And I realized that I had been manipulated to believe that my value was in my quiet, behind the scenes service to others without thinking of my passions, my talents, and my needs. And it took me a while, I would say decades, to figure out that I can only bring my best self to the world when I develop my talents, when I develop my passions, that I may have important things to say. And if you silence me, I can't bring them to the world. So we don't have to abandon all of those values of helping other people, but we need to stop assigning them to a gender and to assigning a lower status to someone who is good at loving others. That it was really, it's really abusive to assume that one gender should be lesser than another. And I think a lot of modern women might say, oh, Amy, you're older than I am. We young people don't do that anymore. But I don't see that. In fact, just the other day, I was in a room with people. It was a nice social event, and there were some couples there in their 20s. In fact, there were 3 sets of couples, boyfriend, girlfriend. And one of the boys started teasing another boy. And he was saying, they were playing a game, and he was saying, you play this game like a girl. And then the other one jumped in and laughed and said, you played this like a girl. Well, I am looking around the room saying, oh, you're using being a woman as a pejorative. And I'm waiting for these young women to say something. I thought, well, I'm going to stand back. Certainly the young people who keep telling me, oh, we're not like this. We're brighter than this. We stand up for ourselves. But they didn't. Finally, I tried. I said, "Oh boy, you're telling him he does that like a girl. What a nice compliment, because girls are smart and girls are this." And I know I tried to not shame him in front of anyone. But then the girls looked at me and like, "Oh yeah," and I saw one of them kind of gave a playful, uh, knock on the shoulder to her boyfriend, but they thought nothing of using being a woman as a pejorative. So I think we all have to look at, and men also, what have I been told about what I'm supposed to be that does not match my core value of loving other people? And I think we all have ways of being that are um, use other people. And um, we don't want that. I want like my partnerships. I want my relationships to be partnerships. Of course, I'm not saying every day is 50-50. Some days my partner needs more from me. Some days I need more from him. But overall, I want a partnership. And I need to tell you that every day as a woman, I have to work very hard not to fall into a subservient role, because I'm in my 60s now, and I was socialized to be the helper. And then I was a nurse who is a helper. And there's nothing wrong with helping, but that's not all I'm good for. And the other part that you asked me about marketing, and especially for a woman, and I think this is even getting worse for men now. Our value is in our appearance. And so in a way, it's been wonderful to age, because you can't do that your whole life, right? I think when I was young, I did have some power. Every person when they're youthful has that youthful beauty. Even if you don't realize you have it, once it's gone, you realize, oh, there was a certain power to that, but it really wasn't a helpful power. Our power should come from our talents and what's special about us. And we need to speak for ourselves and speak for other people, and to develop our own core set of wisdom based on what our parents told us. Yes, you go there and you decide what is wonderful and what am I going to keep. But I think there are some things that came to us in our culture that we need to re-examine, and to insert love and equality into it. And also to be comfortable with complexity. And that's what I love about writing. You don't have to have the answer. Write about the thing you're conflicted about. That's where the interesting stuff is.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's where the interesting stuff is. Let's look at the modern times. Nowadays, a lot of things, some people say a lot of things are changing for everyone, even for in terms of women empowerment. A lot of things are happening. I know there is a lot to be yet happen. But how would you like to, or how do you see the present times? Means, are these the best of times for a woman, for in terms of being a woman, or are these not so great times, especially with artificial intelligence and everything artificial? And as you said, the challenges, people don't let you even age, because and they want you to still be the way you were so many years back. I want to understand from all these points, or maybe I've not been able to articulate it in the way I should. It would be easy for you to answer. But in that aspect, how do you want to assess this present situation for a women? What is your message for them?
I think there's a big duality going on right now. And um, you have the most possibilities in terms of accumulated literature and thoughts to free yourself of your the culture that would have you be less than. So that is positive. You have from Jane Eyre, who was trying to be good 175 years ago, to Margaret Atwood, who has a new possibilities and new books. I mean, looking at what has happened to women. I mean, it's there, but are you reading it? Are you exposing yourself to it? Also, the poetry. When I was growing up, I was not told to. Everything I was told to read in school was basically by men. But I was weird. I was a nerd among nerds, and I made my own reading list for summer and was able to expose myself. So I would encourage everyone to be a nerd among nerds and really look at the literature. And I'm not saying everything in literature has a message that you should take in. You need to have your own filters. You filter through your values. So today, do I think is the best of times? Well, that's hard because right now in the United States, I see a lot of hate towards women. And so it's not an easy time to be a woman because there's a backlash to women who were working to be equal. And a lot of that came, we had a woman run for president, and well, she got a lot of votes. She stirred a lot of hate. And we're still sitting in that hate here in the United States. And I don't know how it's around the world. I know there are similar things going on where you take a step forward and then there's a backlash and we go backwards. And I think the mission all the way through is to test everything against your core values, and you can't do that until you choose your core values. So from your faith, from the philosophic leaders, from your life experience, from nature, I really think you need to figure out what your core values are, write them down, own it, and maybe you need to adjust them from time to time, where you notice maybe where your anger is, where your frustration is, all of those things. When you're journaling and you write those down, you can unpack them. So we have the ability to do that. But I do understand what it is to suffer and to have nothing. I was a single parent. I was abandoned by my husband. I had to work full time, put myself through school. And you don't have a lot of time when you're struggling that hard to do these kinds of evaluations. So at the very least, claim love as your core value and start with that. You won't go wrong. Develop the rest later. And if you love yourself, your laugh lines aren't a big issue, right? They're fine. I don't need to go get an injection to get rid of them. They're fine. I can age gracefully, just like I see the animals in the woods doing. And I can see the beauty of a tree that's thriving, even though it was hit by lightning in the past. So nature's going to help us love ourselves too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what's the role of the market today in a woman's life? Because you talk about, feminism. Feminism still matters. And when people talk about this, they have their own perception. Do you think feminism was gone ever? It has evolved into, women empowerment and much more. Help us understand your version of feminism and how should this feminism deal with the market forces of today who are trying to redefine women in their own way so that it becomes a even bigger and larger market.
Right. Well, I thank you for using the word feminism because a lot of people have such negative connotations to the word feminism. They imagine somehow like a feminist, is somebody who has a man haircut and wears big clunky sandals. That's the stereotype. But anybody can be a feminist if you love women and if you think women should be equal. That's all it is. Just, yes, women should have an equal share. Does that mean that if you're a feminist that you can't develop roles in the family? Can a feminist stay home and take care of the children where the husband goes to work? If you two have decided that those are the roles that you want in your family, and it's a mutual decision, of course you can do that. In terms of the marketplace, the problem is that they don't want us to be feminists. So, because if you're a feminist, then you're feeling good about yourself. Then you're saying, hey, I'm an equal human being. But if you are somebody who is cowering and saying, if I don't look beautiful, if my hair isn't thick and luxurious, if my eyelashes aren't long so I can bat them, and if my toenails aren't the perfect shade of blush pink that's in style right now, then I'm not going to be loved. So see, there's a lot of money and a lot of commercialism tied into women not feeling good about themselves, feeling they have to remake themselves every day for somebody to love and care about them. So if our values are a little deeper, and we're going to be loved for our developing minds, for how we serve other people, how we bring our best, how we have developed our talents, how we have figured out some of the things we're good at. That's one of the things that was very hard for me, even to say, what are you good at, Amy? And I can say, oh, when I write a book, I'm very good at the big picture, at seeing the arc, at seeing what metaphors belong. And if I read your writing, I'm very good at figuring out, look at what a special talent you have for this. You write these beautifully long, elegant sentences that I just want to fall into. Or look at how sharp that sentence is, how short. Look what you did with 3 words. You stopped the paragraph and made me think. So I used to sort of know I had that talent, but I thought I should never say it out loud that I can do that. But that's why I'm a writing teacher. I'm not the best editor, because I might fall in love with your writing, and I miss that you spelled there wrong, that you put the I before the E. I might miss that because I'm jumping into it. So even knowing what I'm good at, naming it, being able to say it, and not being devastated by what I'm not good at. Those are not things that I was taught from culture. Those are things that I had to learn over time as I turned down the noise of people telling me to just be quiet, be pretty, support other people, that was my only purpose. But I know better. My real purpose is to bring my best self to the world. And Van Gogh said, there's nothing more truly artistic than to love people. So I need to love my audience. I need to love the writers, my family, my community, and myself. And that's part of the art of my writing and what I'm bringing to the world. And I hope that does nudge the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the world will certainly like to learn a lot from your upcoming memoir, life, from your life itself. The Alchemy of Sass. Will tell us a bit about this forthcoming memoir of yours, so that people can learn. This is just one episode. That book will talk about that whole life.
Okay. Well, The Alchemy of Sass, the reason it's called that is when I tell you I was silenced as a child, that's true. But I wanted to be what my mother called sassy. And I was never talking back or calling names or saying no. I was saying, well, why is it this way and this? And I think this and I think that. And sometimes I would say it out loud, and then my mother would tell me I was sassy. So my whole life I've been going back and forth. So what I did is I went through my life looking at my identity as a child. And boy, did I remember a lot of things. And in the alchemy of sass, I am unraveling a lot of lies, secrets, and assumptions that all relate to these ideas of voice and authenticity that we've been talking about. I was two men tried to abduct me when I was a child, and I was subject to several different kinds of abuse. I had a hard life. I was abandoned. I had to pull myself out. And it wasn't when I was at my poorest, all I could do was work. That was it. I went to school. I did double shifts. I did whatever I could, to eat and make sure my daughter could eat. And I realized that what saved me, and the reason I got out, is when I was sassy, when I could speak up for myself. That's the only reason I survived. So if I didn't have that urge, that tug of war between be quiet and be sassy, to tell you the truth, I don't think I would be alive right now, because I stood up for myself. I figured out how to get away from the men who were trying to capture me. I did not do what my parents told me to do. My parents told me that they would not sign any of the papers for me to go to college because only ugly girls needed college. And so I had to, go to the schools and figure out. They told me I had to wait till I was 25. So I was 17 at the time. And if my parents didn't sign the papers, I had to wait till I was 25 to start college. So I had to talk my way into surviving all through this. So in the alchemy of sass, it's about me figuring out that my voice and my sassiness is what saved me. And there's a lot of mysteries in it too, because I didn't know who my father was for most of my life. And we had a lot of big family secrets, and I figured them out. I went through Ancestry. I figured out all kinds of family secrets. And I found out that a lot of my beautiful family that I love in so many ways were hiding a lot of secrets. And most of those secrets were based on men hiding what they did, and women being their shame causing them to propagate more lies. And it's not just in my family, it's in a lot of families. And so I think The Alchemy of Sass is actually a good read. It was interesting for me because I unraveled a lot of secrets, and what I took away from it was an ability to love myself more than I ever did, even with all my flaws and with things that other people might tell me I should be ashamed of. I am not ashamed of my past. I'm not ashamed of things my ancestors did. I'm not ashamed of any of those things. And I hope that The Alchemy of Sass isn't just my story. If people read it, when people read it, that they will find a freedom and ability to love their imperfect families and their imperfect past.
Absolutely, Amy. So, in a nutshell, what would you like to tell the world, especially women? What's your message?
That you are wondrously made, and you're made certainly for service, as we all are, but your gender does not define you as somebody who must be quiet and live a life of servitude. Figure out what you're good at, what your talents are, develop those, shine, and bring them to the world.
Wonderfully said. There's so much to learn from you, Amy, and I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of women would want to connect with you and learn more from you, about you, from your book. What's the best way for them to do so?
Well, just go to amyloujenkins.com, and you'll find right now I have you can get a free download. My publisher is allowing me to give away a copy of Every Natural Fact, my first memoir. And you'll find all my workshops, writing workshops, and you can sign up for my newsletter, Lit Friends, a couple times a month. And it's all about helping you write if you want to journal or write for publication. And it's also about the things that inspire us to be better people.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, and thank you to all the listeners out there.